And welcome back to the Splitting Hairs podcast presented by Jackrabbit Illustrated. It is 8 o'clock. We told you we'd be on at 8 o'clock tonight. Here we are after a long layoff. Man, it feels good to be back talking about the 2022 Jackrabbit football team. So we're going to start with our usual suspects here tonight, and we'll get in with you, Tanner, in just a second. Chad Myros. Chad, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Just got back from vacation, and I was down in Iowa and made sure to poke the bear every chance I had. And I couldn't be more stoked to walk into another FBS school and walk out with a win.
Hey, there we go. Good. Dallas, how are you doing?
I'm great, Matt. I'm great. Really excited to be back. I could not be more pumped for this football season, especially the offense, which we're going to talk about today. Yeah, man, life's good.
So Dallas, putting you on the spot here. You had quite the summer circuit. Your son now is getting older, so
Yep.
he needs to go to football camps and stuff now.
Yep.
Share with the good people, where did you all go this summer?
Sure. So the reason we did this is he decided not to do travel baseball. So I filled in every nook and cranny, and I basically kept scheduling, and my wife never told me stop. So I just kept going. But we did, yeah, man. We hit football university camps in Madison and Chicago. We went down to Texas A&M, which was unbelievable. I could talk for 20 minutes about that. He played against a kid who's 13 that committed to Clemson already. So we did that. We did Iowa State, MSU here in Mankato, which is always a great camp. We're going to SDSU next weekend. They do theirs. Their youth camp is actually during fall camp. So it's cool. All the guys are there. They all interact. We did it last year. Then we get to watch a practice afterwards. So I'll be there on Saturday here coming up. I feel like I'm maybe missing one. Maybe one more. Oh, we also went to Michigan for a hockey camp. And I was in Winnipeg for another hockey camp. So I've been busy. It's been great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That's a great summer. And with us again, is this your second or third time on the show, Tanner?
Second time.
Second time. All right. Tanner Castora from Keloland. He's about a year and a half?
Year and a half now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And has just done some terrific stories on the Jackrabbits. He's been able to get to Brookings, get to practice a little more than we have this summer so far. And so he's going to give us kind of a live look, what's happening day to day right now. So Tanner, really happy to have you on again.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. I cover them a lot. I've been to practice many times, and I'm happy to be able to talk about it and share with Jacks Nation a little bit of what's been going on day to day.
All right. So before we get into the actual offense, we do have to talk about our title sponsors for this year. We'd like to thank Drake's Place in Bowdle, South Dakota, and Cottonwood Coffee in Brookings for being our title sponsors. You may have noticed in the position preview articles, we've been posting some of Drake's food pictures in our position previews, and a lot of good comments. Ryan, I'm not sure if you're watching, or Robert, but people want to know about that calzone. They want that at tailgating. We've had some requests for some poutine at tailgating. So
That's mine.
if we could, arrange that, we could do a Jackrabbit Illustrated Drake's Place tailgating event down there. That'd be a good time. But no, the food looks terrific. So if you're heading through Bowdle, whatever it may be, stop at Drake's Place and get set up there. Cottonwood Coffee. Tanner, I don't know when you're going through Brookings if you have a coffee spot you like to stop, but it better be Cottonwood. They have some terrific breakfast. Terrific lunch. Their coffee is spot on. I was there in April for 4 days for State FFA convention, and I ate breakfast there every morning, and it was wonderful every morning. So highly encourage it. They have their outdoor patio. So right now, this is like the perfect patio season with this weather. So Cottonwood, obviously you can go online, cottonwoodcoffee.com, and place your coffee orders that they will deliver right to your house. So check out those two, and we're very thankful for them for being our title sponsors again this year.
One of the best parts about Cottonwood is I love coming in and you get to amp up before you really get into it. So I'm curious, Tanner, when you're in town on Saturdays, are you in work mode, like full on work mode, or do you get to enjoy?
I enjoy work mode. So I when I get to Brookings, it's just I've grown up, I love college football, and I didn't know exactly what to expect when I got here. But people are so into SDSU football. And when you get to town, it's like the whole town is focused on game day. So I kind of just immerse myself in it. And I really love coming down to Brookings on Saturdays.
So you would say we have a great game day atmosphere that people shouldn't miss out on, right? Get your season tickets.
Yes, and I've tried to paint that picture the best I can. I tell all my buddies about it back home. I actually got some friends in Denver who are coming in for a game this season. So
No way.
I do. I've convinced them to come in. They're going to do it. So yeah, it's a heck of a scene in Brookings on Saturdays.
You're going to send them to us to tailgate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have them come. I will.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, let us know. Definitely, we'll have some drinks for them.
Perfect.
Food
They'll appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, all right, let's get into the offensive previews. So if you've been following the blog this week in our Twitter and Facebook account, you've noticed that I've put out an article every day this week focused on a specific position. We started at quarterback, so that's where we're going to stop. Oh, here we go. Hold on. She's back. Pierre's mom is back again. There we go. She's still here.
She is the best.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm really excited to see what Pierre is going to do this year. Definitely.
Yeah, right? Oh, man. All right. So let's dive into the quarterbacks here. Obviously, we're excited to have Mark back. You know, we had a year of Chris Oladokin who had to have, exceeded expectations, I think, for all of us. You know, when you get a player who's transferred twice, you get a little nervous. but that Colorado State game, when the lights came on, it was like, whoa, this guy can sling it. But anyways, we're back to Mark. Dallas, do you have Mark's information pulled up from the spring season? Stats.
I am actively working on that. I had all the 2021 ones pulled up, and I was still grabbing his. Trying to tap dance here. Sorry, bud.
No, it's all good.
I'm in preseason form yet.
It's all good. But for Mark, you know, in the spring season, he was so effective with his legs, right? That's what made him different. Tanner, at practice, are you getting any sense of that? Is that still going to be a threat, or is it something they're, you know, maybe going to do like Chris and only as needed?
That's a great question, and I think you have to look at it in a couple different ways. First off, you go back to his first year in Brookings, true freshman. The running game was a big part of his game. That's why he won Freshman of the Year in the Missouri Valley Conference. So they can't take that out of the equation altogether because that's what makes him Mark Gronowski, right? He can extend plays with his legs. He did a lot of times where that was kind of on the fly, pick up a first down. That's going to be a part of his game. But you wonder where he's at mentally with his knee, because I just talked to him, and he's still yet to take a hit, right? He hasn't taken a live hit yet, and that'll be an adjustment period. I think he'll be okay with that. But when you look at Gronowski as a whole, I think it's very interesting, his progression. You see a normal freshman quarterback who wins Missouri Valley Freshman of the Year. He almost won FCS Freshman of the Year, right? Came in second. Usually they're a redshirt freshman. Well, he was a true freshman, but he's kind of progressed backwards, and here's what I mean by this. His first year, he had a fantastic year. His second year, he learned under a veteran, right? He sat in the side. He had to sit in the sidelines and watch a veteran and Chris Oladokin perform. That's usually what you do as a redshirt freshman your first season. So he's kind of working in reverse. And he told me he got a lot from last year being on the sidelines, seeing the game from a different vantage point. And there's a lot of things that he's picked up. So back to your point about a running game, I think it'll still be a part of the equation, but with the running backs that they have, a stable of them, I think they're going to try and lean more towards giving it to them. But Gronowski's going to use his legs at some point. How comfortable he'll be, we'll see as the season goes on.
I mean, I think that'll be really interesting when the pocket, if it tends to collapse or he gets out on a roll, he can, you know, extend plays. I think that's what I would look for from him that I'd really like to see. I mean, not just dedicated runs as much as keeping plays alive and getting that positive yardage. And from all accounts, it sounds like his arm's bigger this year and his accuracy is even better. Tanner, have you noticed that in practice?
He's looked great. And that's one thing that's been cool to see is that he seems to trust his body. So when you're coming back from an injury, You don't have to be a big-time athlete to know it. You could just be a golfer on the side. You hurt your knee. There's going to be a trust factor there with your own self, and you see no hesitation. When he's throwing the ball, his motion looks fantastic. He seems to be confident in what he's doing. Now, obviously, that will change. It could change as they go into live play. Again, he hasn't been hit yet, but his throwing motion and his balls have looked fantastic.
Cool. That's what I've noticed just on a lot of the highlights they put up. Obviously, they're highlights, but man, the ball really looks like it has some zip coming out of his hand this year. And that accuracy piece, I'm just excited to see what he looks like. You know, and the thing that when I did my position preview with Coach Lujan, it was interesting because we're getting all these questions about who's the starting quarterback, and it's like, well, it's Mark. Like there's no controversy here. It's Mark. People forget that his freshman year, true freshman, very limited in what he could do with team activities because of COVID. Like there were very few times where the whole offensive group was in the same room together. You know, they weren't. You know, the travel was different. The travel arrangements were crazy. The meeting rooms, again, they did a lot of team stuff over Zoom. So it was a different vibe. And now he's had a year to just sit back, watch, digest, learn from a guy like Oladokun, who's been a college quarterback and was an NFL draft pick, learn how to be a college quarterback. So I don't know. I'm just really excited for the year that he's sitting on. I know Ben's not able to be with us tonight, but from the B team, but he is pumped. He thinks Gronowski, you know, has a real shot to really be sitting on a huge season. What's the Peyton Award, or what is it called? The top offensive player, right?
Walter Payton Award?
Yeah, it's Walter Payton.
Like he did not make the preliminary list, and I know Ben feels pretty strongly that he's going to be on there by the end of the year for sure. So other quarterbacks.
Say, I got a question, Matt. What are you thinking in terms of how they'll use him in the rushing game? Because, you know, that's how he got hurt, and he went all season with that. But his ability to run the ball, I mean, that's what set him apart. I mean, some of those, you know, he really was able to step in and rush when he needed to. Yeah,
it was that, you know, I'm going to get the terminology wrong, but like that quarterback power is what he was so successful with, right? That Southern Illinois game, you know, that specifically that long touchdown run late in the game in the playoffs there, right? Like that was just incredible, like take your breath away kind of play. So that has to still be in the arsenal, I think, right? And I think though, Dallas, the one thing that I've brought up is that Rudy wrinkle, right? I think Rudy is going to get 5 to 8 snaps. 5 snaps, let's say 5 snaps a game on offense.
That makes sense. I mean, he's a solid supplement to Mark's game, at least what it was 2 years ago. I mean, he's incredibly athletic. He's got a very, very strong arm. I know the rap on him, you know, a year ago was just that he wasn't, I don't know, confidence maybe isn't the right word, but that was kind of the problem going into it. But I got to imagine after a year that he's feeling a bit better about that now.
Mm-hmm. And even NDSU did that last year in their playoff run with their 2 quarterbacks. You know, they'd run in Patterson, who's since transferred, but they'd run in Patterson to run some of those quarterback run plays so that Cam Miller doesn't take some shots. So, yep. Tanner, you want to jump in? I see you're itching to say. Yeah.
With Rudy Voss, too, an element that he adds, you see how excited those guys get when he picks up a first down or a touchdown? He's one of the favorites on the team. So not only does he have a kind of a different element with his running style, but he has some juice as well, just electricity when he's in the game under center.
All right. You know, when talking to Zach too, Zach really credited Keaton for having a really good summer. So, you know, he said he's really embraced the leadership role. Obviously, Keaton's played in some huge moments for the Jacks. And I feel pretty confident if he's our second or third quarterback, like that's a pretty darn good position to be in my opinion. You know, so that's where I'm at with that.
Could I ask you guys a question about the quarterback position? Because you guys are kind of, I'd say, historians in the sense of South Dakota State football. Where right now, as far as I just say, not what he's accomplished, because he has years left to play here at South Dakota State, but what you've seen talent-wise, what he's done in the football field, where would you put Gronowski in the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks you guys have seen through your time at South Dakota State?
I mean,
I'd have to say if we're picking Mount Rushmore and I guess success-wise, he took us to the national championship, so that's hard to deny.
Yep.
But if you look at the whole scope of work in the D1 era, I think you got to have Christian number one, and he's got to be basically right behind him, right, guys? I mean,
it's hard to judge somebody's body of work after a year. I mean, it's just pure talent and I hate the word moxie, but just the I also hate the word swagger. I can't come up with a good one. Just what he came in with as a freshman, what he brought to the game, the confidence that you felt watching him take control of that offense, like that was amazing. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, it was pretty immediate that you saw that he had the it factor. Maybe that's what you're looking for, Dallas.
There we go. I like it factor much better. Thank you.
It's tough because I was really impressed with Oladokin last year. I think Taron Christian is number one. I think we can agree on that right now. But Austin Sumner, he didn't have the running dimension.
Yep.
But Ryan Berry too had flashes. So it just like we've had a nice. We've really been okay at quarterback in our Division I era. It was what I can speak to, I guess.
Yep.
There's not too many seasons where it's like, oh man, that is the weak link on our team. Like,
yeah, there hasn't been one. If you're talking, if it's Mount Rushmore top four, like he's in the top four off of the one season.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Let's move to running back because this is an exciting group. Obviously, with Pierre transitioning to the Patriots, that's exciting. His mom was here already. That's great.
She's out in Boston.
Yeah, in Boston, it looks like. So that's
cool.
awesome.
Awesome.
So, anyways, Isaiah Davis is now the featured back, right? Obviously, Amar Johnson, Angel Johnson, Josh Burai, and then we have a trio of pretty talented freshmen, it sounds like. But I'm guessing those first four are the ones that are going to get the bulk of the action, with probably Amar and Isaiah being the 1-2 or 1A, 1B. Tanner, what are you seeing from that group, live right now?
Well, Isaiah Davis, I don't know if this is possible, but I almost feel that he's coming into the season underrated. I don't think people really understand how good this dude is. I think it was a perfect situation last year. You never want anyone to get hurt, ever. But with Davis going out, they had to give Pierre the ball more than they wanted to because they wanted to keep him fresh. But he showed every NFL scout and every team that he can be that dude for a full season. So Pierre had a heck of a year, showed he can be the man and then some. And now it's Davis's team right in the backfield. And I think people don't quite get how talented this kid is. He's every bit of 6', 6'1", 215, 220 pounds. Everyone remembers the run in the national championship down the sideline. One of the best runs I've ever seen. And now it's his team. And you can clearly see that in practice. He's leading every single drill. He's more vocal this year. And I think Isaiah Davis, I know everyone here knows how good he is, but I think he's going to even maybe surprise some people around the Missouri Valley with how good he can be when he's fully the man in control in the backfield.
So I forget where I read this, but somebody said he essentially has been, he got to see Pierre, who was obviously an absolute pleasure to get to watch him over his career, got to watch him prepare to be a professional football player, has now copied those steps, and Isaiah's built like a damn action figure right now. Like he looks different, right?
He is cut right now.
Yeah.
So Dallas, that was both Zimmer and I had that in our preview articles of.
I'll credit you.
And that was Andre Crenshaw. Thank you. Running back coach Andre Crenshaw mentioned that Pierre really modeled the way for Isaiah for what it takes in terms of the stretching, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. Getting your body right so that you can be your best, because he has high aspirations too. He wants to be a pro. And I'd mentioned this, looking like an action figure. Tanner, is that something you're noticing at practice? When I talk to the coaches, they all raved about Matt Jacobs, the new strength and conditioning coach. And I think so many coaches this year said they've really improved their body. And like they've never emphasized that as much as they have this year. It was Mark, it was Isaiah, it was a number of offensive linemen, some linebackers with Coach Rogers. So, yeah.
I have my little notebook right here. I go to practice and I mark things down I see. I've written several players on here that I've noticeably looked at and said, wow, they look different. And I know we're not talking defense, but there's a couple guys like I'll mention Stallbird. He's put on 15 pounds. Caleb Francis, he's put on at least 10 to 15 pounds. There's a couple offensive linemen I'll talk about when we get there who have lost weight, some have added weight. Mm-hmm. It's very noticeable throughout the entire team. And I think that just goes to show you that it is a collective effort as a whole that this could be the year, right? Like everyone took it very serious in the offseason. Mm-hmm. And those words that you heard last year, at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, have clearly been backed up by action, and it shows with the way some of these guys look right now.
I'm excited. Last year we got to see glimpses of Amar and his potential. I remember one of the earlier games, Dallas, maybe it was Lindenwood, when you were on the sidelines, and you were like, this Amar Johnson, like you keep talking about him, Matt, but he looks like a freshman. He looks like a freshman right now. I don't know if he can do a whole season. And
yep, that is exactly what I said.
and I'm excited for him just because his high school tape is insane. And now he's had a year of college ball. He's learned about it. He used to do or he maybe still does a podcast. He started doing a podcast last spring where he talked to some of his freshman teammates and stuff. It was kind of interesting. And they all expressed just what it takes to be a collegiate football player. And it's like mentally, but it's also like being responsible, showing up on time, making sure you're doing all your reps. Like no one's really checking on you. So you have to do it and you have to be accountable to it. And just that, they talk about this in the pros a lot, but that first to second year jump, like I really look for him to take a big jump this year. Crenshaw mentioned him specifically about being a threat in the passing game as well and getting him out in space. So that's kind of exciting. So, and then Angel Johnson and Josh Burai are really battling, it sounds like, for that third spot. And it's going to be maybe a game by game, decision depending on how they think they're going to be utilized. Burai obviously is a little more powerful, goal line situations. Angel was a wide receiver with Chase Mason, high school teammates. So played 9-man ball, used to being out in space and on the perimeter and stuff. Really like him as a receiving threat as well. And he's really only been playing running back now a year. They transitioned him to the room following fall camp last year. So exciting room.
With Amar Johnson, go ahead, Dallas.
Go ahead, Tanner.
With Amar Johnson, he had a really good spring too. He really showed out in the spring. And you watch him run, I think people will pick this up throughout this season because he's going to get his opportunities. He runs low and he bounces off tackles well. He's a very good complement to Isaiah Davis, and it's kind of going to be similar to last year, at least what they wanted last year, with that 1-2 punch with Strong Jr. and Isaiah. Now you've got Amar Johnson. I think he's going to surprise some people too who don't quite know what he's capable of. He plays very low to the ground, and he's a good complement to Isaiah.
That's what I was going to touch on. It's so good to have those different running styles. Where with Isaiah, you see all of it. Like Pierre was very, very distinct. Like if you could like black out or shadow out Pierre on a run, and like I could pick him out of 100 different running backs. You could just tell, right? Isaiah, I think, has a bit of a mix, but we've been really spoiled going back 3-4 years. I mean, we had 4 guys that could run the ball as a fullback at one point in time. You look at 2 or 3 wound up on NFL rosters for at least a year, or at least in rookie camps. So that adding some power to that to be able to change it up, adding some guys that maybe not scat back's not the right term, but some guys that have some lateral quickness, some elusiveness, that gets really tough for defenses to defend when you can change it up that way.
All right, before we move to wide receivers, I want to just clean up some stuff in the chat here. We got our friend Jabari Jones from Kennesaw State making a bold prediction for next year that Eastern Kentucky, Kennesaw, and Stephen F. Austin are moving to Conference USA. Jabari, come on. We don't need any more folks to leave FCS and water down FBS anymore. Stay, Jabari. Rev, Dustin Helton, fingers crossed we get an SFA SDSU match in Frisco. That'd be pretty fun. Oh man.
SFA, what they're top 15 right now, aren't they? I forget.
Yeah,
what they're
top
ranked.
10 in a lot of polls, I
Top
believe,
10?
right? Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be a good party for sure.
Yeah. So if you guys aren't following, if you want to learn more about other FCS podcasts, be sure to be on the lookout for our partners over at FCS Fans Nation. There's a really strong list of podcasts there. Dustin Helton, he's nicknamed the Rev, runs a podcast focused on the WAC and the ASUN, right?
Yeah, the WAC Sun.
The WAC Sun. Yep, WAC Sun. Yep. So, yeah, that's a good way to learn more about FCS from around the country is following the FCS Fans Nation podcast group. We're a part of it. Just so we appreciate them and helping us get to know more about FCS schools.
Hey Matt, let's step backward for a second. Let me run through rushing stats from last year just because I had it pulled up. Obviously, 99% of people that hear this are listening on the podcast later on, and then also you can't quite see because I can't zoom in. Again, I'm in preseason form here. I'm doing my best. So last year in 15 games, Pierre, we got 240 attempts for 1,747 yards, 7-yard average per carry, 18 touchdowns, so a little better than a touchdown a game. Isaiah, only 7 games played, 95 attempts, 700 net yards for 7.4. So his average was a bit higher, 7 touchdowns, so 1 touchdown per game. Sorry, Mike's a little hot there. And then, after that, we got Chris. We got Amar had, in 14 games, had 86 attempts. I can't believe Amar had 86 attempts. Would you guys have guessed that?
Yeah, he got the ball more than one would think.
Yep.
Yeah, he had 450 yards. That is sneaky. I would have lost a bet there, but he had 5 yards of carry too. So, and then after that we go Chris, we go Oladokin, we go Rudy Voss, Angel Johnson, and kind of trails back from there.
Dallas, could you pull up real quick Isaiah's stats in that Villanova game that I believe Pierre did not play in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he went over 200 yards in that game. Well over 200 yards.
Yeah. That was nuts because that game, Villanova came in with this vaunted defense, right? And I remember looking at that. They had that stud linebacker. They had some great corners, a nasty defensive line, and yeah.
So Villanova.
25, 174.
Yep, 25 for 174.
3 touchdowns.
Yep, 3 touchdowns. So, he's someone that just is able to assert his will. And you talked about a highly anticipated or highly regarded defense. I know a team about 4 hours to the south of me coming up here in 3 weeks that thinks their defense is going to hold us to about 4 yards. So I cannot wait to see what happens there.
All right. Well, let's move to wide receivers. And obviously at wide receiver, we have to start with the Yankee twins, Jackson and Jaden. And then when I was doing my position previews, it was really great to connect and learn more about this other group because there's Eli Wolfe or Landon, right? Landon Wolfe and Canyon Bauer and Tyler Feldkamp and the guy from Florida.
Devin Cole.
Devin Cole, thank you. So those 4, it sure sounded like when I was talking to Coach that's who was in competition for that slot job, that 3rd wide receiver spot. Landon's been injured, it sounds like. Matt Zimmer reported that. But curious, Tanner, what are you seeing? Who's emerging there?
Well, you start with the Yankees. I did a feature piece on them last year. I talked to a lot of people about them. And one of the guys who's very much in the know in South Dakota football told me that with the 2 Yankee twins, that South Dakota State was getting 2 Big Ten level athletes. You look at these dudes, they're legit 6'2.5", 215 pounds. They can play on the outside, but they're quick enough where they can run those intermediate routes. You just don't see that kind of hybrid of a receiver at this level. So those 2 dudes are pretty freaky athletes, and they're basically clones, right? You've got 2 of them, so they're a problem. But the question at receiver is in the slot right now. And the 2 guys that are expected to fill that role are Landon Wolfe, transferred from Oklahoma State. Last year, he was hurt in the very first play that he played in against Colorado State, tore his ACL. on a kick or on a punt return. He missed all of last year. He's back. And Canyon Bauer from O'Gorman High School, he played some slot last year. He's hurt as well right now. So they're both battling injuries. They should be back the next week or two. I've talked to both of them. But a guy I want people to keep their eye on. Now, he's undersized. He's only a sophomore. The kid you mentioned from Florida, Devin Cole. I have seen him flash at practice many times. He's made several nice catches. What I like about his style, not that the other two guys aren't very capable and probably will get playing time over time, but you look at the two Yankee twins, they're bigger dudes, and they can't do it all, but they're going to be more, deep threats, working down the field. But this Cole kid at 5'9", probably 165, 170, lightning quick. And that's something that they didn't really have last year on the offense that they could this year with Cole. Now, I'm not sure he's going to get the nod. He's still a youngster, might have to put on some weight. But he's flashed to me in practice. So there's a storyline right now at that slot position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Josh Davis really spoke highly of him. He really said he had a good spring, good summer. So I think he's someone that's building momentum. His younger brother, too, has really been heating up the recruiting trail as well. So that's kind of interesting to watch when he posts his brother's offers, all sorts of FBS stuff. So kind of cool. Dallas, were you teammates with Davis?
Yep. Oh yeah, I know Davis quite well. We were teammates. He was a stud. Very, very good football player. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Good to have him back.
Yeah, good to have him back. I mean, that's more of that just Stig lineage.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk. I don't know. I want to talk about Wolfe a little bit more because I forgot for a half a minute he was coming back, and I don't know. I think I want a Landon Wolfe jersey. Like I am gonna be this guy's biggest fan. One, he might be like all of our ages. I'm not sure. He's at this point. I mean, dude's been around a long time. He got some extra years. To have that kind of leadership, again, we had the same conversation a year ago. But I mean, he wasn't just like on the roster at Oklahoma State. Like, I mean, dude contributed. He's a very, very good football player at the Division I level. So I can't wait to see what he does. Even out of the slot, take the top off the defense a little bit. I mean, we're gonna see. Mark's got some weapons.
Yeah, by all accounts, he was the speed we were really missing last year, Tanner.
Yep.
Yes, and to Dallas, to your point about who he is as a person, I've gotten to know him a little bit. You don't have to say anything else but the fact that this dude he's played one play as a Jackrabbit, and he was named the captain this year. I think that says all you need to know about what kind of kid Landon Wolfe is.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Another player that Davis at least really talked to me about was AJ Coons. And so AJ Coons is 6'4", 210 is what he's listed at. Says he runs a 4.5 40 and tremendous ball skills. So again, Coons was high school teammates with Adam Bach, and then his high school quarterback was Cam Miller, NDSU's quarterback. So this small little Solon, Iowa squad, pretty nuts there. But Coons, 2 years ago, Lujan told me he was like Jason Snyder. So is who he thought he was. And if it wasn't for, Winicky and Cade Johnson and now the Yankees, Jason Snyder is a Division I all-time great for the Jacks. Still might be over those guys. I don't know. So for Lujan to compare him to Schneider, I think is pretty high compliment with that size and speed combination. I think that's pretty cool. Davis said that he's really been working with Coons on using his big butt to kind of box out defensive backs and go up and get the ball. So he thinks they're gonna have a use for him somehow this year. He's just too good, too talented to keep off the field. So he said he doesn't know how he's going to get him on there with the Yankees because obviously you don't want to pull the Yankees either. And you have legitimate NFL tight ends. So how are you going to get him on the field? We'll see. But that's just another player to keep an eye on. That's someone that I'm watching. But I'm glad you brought up Devin Cole, Tanner.
Last point, too, I wanted to make about the receiving core. The running backs are going to play a factor, too, in the passing game. I've watched Isaiah Davis and Mark Gronowski work when practice is over on routes, just those two guys. And Isaiah has good hands. I mean, very good hands. So don't be surprised if Isaiah Davis is used, more often than you think in the passing game this coming season.
I'm glad you brought that up because the running back highlights that they put out on GoJacks, whatever it was just a couple days ago on Twitter, half the package was them catching passes out of the backfield. Yeah. So not sure if anyone else noticed that or not, but good point.
I did. I noticed because all I can think of is all the idiot NFL pundits who somehow got stuck on the fact that somehow thinking Pierre couldn't catch a football.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That drove me insane. But that's a good segue there. Let me quick run down some stats from last year. Number 1 receiving, we got Jackson Yankee, 72 receptions, 1,176 yards, 5 touchdowns. Tucker Kraft, number 2, 65 receptions, 773 yards, 6 touchdowns. Jaden next, 41 for 655 and 9 touchdowns. A little Chris Carter action there. All he does is catch touchdowns. Zach Hines coming in 4th, 24 for 232 and 6 TDs. Good gracious. Then we got Canyon Bauer, Pierre Strong, and trails off from there. But
Chris Oladokin has to be on that list for catching touchdowns.
He is, right? Actually. He's Oladokin, 232 for 2 touchdowns.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Dallas. Appreciate that. The tight end group. This is nuts. When we started Jackrabbit Illustrated, it was Dallas Goedert's senior year with Jake Winicky. And I remember all the buzz being on the sideline, interviewing the guy for the Senior Bowl that came to practice. That was pretty cool. And just all this buzz around Tucker now, though, this year. He was just Matt Miller yesterday just named him his top small school prospect. I believe he's been showing up as number 1 through number 3 tight end prospect in this year's draft. Top 50 players pretty consistently. As a junior, I think there's still exactly. So it's the guy that we all love to follow, Josh, who works with Phil Steele. He won't put him on his list because he's a junior, and he won't put him on his list until Tucker declares officially. So it's pretty crazy just to think the amount of attention he's getting. The NLI stuff that was floated out, the 6 figures that he was offered to go play elsewhere. He stayed. It's just phenomenal story, phenomenal kid. I've loved getting to communicate with Tucker really for quite a while. So just, I don't know, wishing him a huge season.
Tucker Kraft I've gotten to know him pretty well. And from the day I've met him to now, when I met him, everyone knew what he could be, and now he is that, right? But he's just he's the same guy. He's a funny, happy-go-lucky, got this serious, hard workman-like attitude to him, and then is just a dude off the field who likes to have fun. He hasn't changed at all. And I did ask him at Media Day, I said, how are you handling all this notoriety? And he said, it just made me hungry. So I'm not number 1 in all the lists, so I still have something to prove. And to that point, too, something I've noticed with the entire team is it's a team. They're on the same page. Look at all the guys that we've talked about, right? Running back position, wide receiver. Now we're getting the tight end. All of these guys are studs, right? They could go somewhere else to another school, and they would be the focal point of the offense. And they're all in a collective group right here in South Dakota State. So they're going to have to be selfless. Of course, there's going to be games where people will be upset. Maybe they should have got the ball more than they did, and that's going to happen. And that's okay. You want to be hungry, right? You work all season to get the ball, right? But you're going to have a good attitude about it. And all those guys seem to be on the same page. The focus is to win a national championship. And that's what everyone goes back to when you ask guys like Tucker about what their goals are. They're living right now. They've got a great team ahead of them, and they know they've got unfinished business, and that's what they're aiming for. So when you talk to Tucker and all these accolades he's getting and attention he's getting, you kind of just reflect back to, that's cool, but that's not what I'm worried about right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything that's getting brought up about him too, the run blocking, it's not just that he's this awesome threat to catch the passes. I mean, it's It's his run blocking. It's his pass blocking. It's his ability to make plays with the ball in his hand after he catches it. One of the highlights, I remember the spring season, he was a little bit penalty prone, right? And so one of the draft things did say, like, watched 4 of his games. And in those 4 games, he had 5 penalties. So that's something that, he's going to have to focus on, maybe some of those concentration things we'll see this year. But how good of a duo, though, is it when Zach Hines, 6'7", 250, is your number 2 tight end, right? So with everything that he's done in his career as a Jackrabbit, the red zone presence that he provides, the sure-handedness, right?
Have you guys, in your time, you guys have been watching South Dakota State football, is this one of the – where would you guys rank this duo? Not Tucker and Zach individually. I'm saying a duo. Where would you guys put this?
I mean,
it's the top tight end duo by far.
Right. If you're saying just duo offensive weapons, it's got to be right there with Dallas and Jake. I mean,
what'd you say?
Guys are quite a duo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making me think there. The Dallas, Goddard, and Winicky, that was something where you watch that and you're like, well, we're never going to see this again. That's how that completely
Absolutely.
felt. The same way when you watch, Zach Zenner, it's like, well, we'll never see this again.
Yep.
Kind of a thing. But no, in terms of duo 1-2 punch, it's at the top, I think.
Coach Stig did say, too, and I'm sure you guys heard it. He said that this is collectively the most skill they've ever had in offense. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, everything we're talking about, it's not like the coaches are naive to this. I mean, everyone understands what they have on this roster, and they're going to have to find a way to make it work. I think Mark's a perfect guy. He's a respected guy who's done it, right? And he's coming back now, and they know he can do it. But the coaches are not naive to what they have in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've been holding back. I want to talk through coaching, and I figured we'd get through, run through the O-line here next, because I think that the changes in the coaching staff might be the most interesting wrinkle this year.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing I want to say about Tucker Kraft too, and I asked him about this. You watch him run routes. I made the comment. I said, Tucker, you look quicker, and he told me that's exactly what he worked. And he went to Nashville to this big tight end convention with NFL tight ends and worked with them. And he told me he's been trying to run the same routes in less steps. That's been his philosophical idea of getting quicker, and it showed. He looks a step quicker this year.
Cool. So we got to talk about Zach, and Zach is like playing with a third offensive tackle with the way he run blocks, right? We credit him with that for a lot of the big plays. But again, soft hands, really reliable, red zone threat. I don't know, and people just really speak to his intelligence and character. I have not had the chance to really visit with Zach at all, but it just continually gets brought up how dang smart he is. And so what a huge credit, just for the offense and, run blocking, finding the open spots in the field. That's understanding what your teammates are doing, how to get them open as well. That's such an important piece from your number 2 tight end. So
I've gotten to know him a little bit. And again, to like most of the kids in this team, him and Tucker rooting for each other. You can sense that so clearly, rooting for each other. And that's the same, again, throughout the entire offense. And that's why you have to imagine it'll all work this season.
Yep. The third guy we got to mention with tight ends is the Swiss Army knife, Mike Morgan. Was able to talk to Chris Myers, and he was like audibly excited about Mike Morgan's potential this year. And they're going to figure out again a way to get Mike Morgan on the field. I don't know what that looks like, but Mike Morgan, had one of the most electric catch and runs last year in one of the games. There's that
Northern
Iowa. Yeah. But and then the spring season too, he had that lollipop catch against Northern Iowa too. Or was that UND? Whatever. It was one of the dome games. But he's a terrific football player. He's bounced around multiple positions, running back, fullback, H-back, tight end, since he got to Brookings. I don't know. I'm just excited about him. And if they're going to figure out a way to get him the ball a little bit more too, I don't know. There's so many weapons. This is just nuts. So
whether he does get the ball all that much or not, he's still someone the defense has to account for. I mean, you still have to know he's on the field because he's shown he's he's capable, like many of the guys in this offense.
And he's someone that, because he has played so many positions, Myers said they can line him up anywhere, and they know that he's going to do his job. And so if you want to get, some confusion, getting some good mismatches, that kind of stuff, he's someone that they can move around and feel comfortable with it. So, all right, let's go to the Hogs then. 605 Hogs. We can still call them that. Chad, kick us off with the offensive line here. What do we got?
Man, I can't wait. My favorite player on this whole team is Mason McCormick. He's my boy. He interacts with us. We had his mom. I believe that's his mom.
Yeah, that's Kibby. That's his mom.
Yeah.
Kibby,
on
Mickey
here
says
interacting
hi.
with us as well. I mean, the left side's going to be the strong side this year. I don't know what else to say. Bo Donald's coming up, looking real good. I mean, you meet his dad, and there's no question that guy's going to be a stout line player. So, I'm excited for what this group brings back. Some of the guys have gotten some reps that they weren't that we didn't get. I guess what I'm trying to say is they didn't get as many reps as we would have liked to see them get, but they got some quality time, and I think they're going to show out this year. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised.
It's such a weird thing. We've got 2 unanimous All-Americans, and then a couple of question marks. And I don't mean that as a slam in any way. It's just, again, like you said, not enough reps, a little bit unproven. So it's like it's either the offensive line. We always talk about that as a unit. It's obviously 5 individual dudes or however many rotate in, but to have 2 guys wrecking people, some experience in the middle, and then a couple of people that don't have as much experience or as many reps, like this could go one way or the other. It could either be the absolute dominant force highlight of the team, or it could be the thing that we're talking about in week 12 where we're like, oh man, I wish we could shore this up.
Yep. When I talked to Coach Olson, he didn't say it directly, but it sure seemed like he felt really good about Bo Donald at right tackle. And it sure seemed like he felt pretty good about Gus Miller at center. Right guard was where it sounded like there were 6 people, like open tryouts to be the right guard. Tanner, what are you seeing? What are you seeing up there?
Well, to that point, at right guard, and quickly too left guard, Bo Donald's working with the ones right now. He's been working with the ones. And then at guard, Evan Berenstein, he's a junior.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, missed all of last year with a shoulder injury. He was working with the ones. Came back to practice the next day. He was in a walking boot. So it might be pretty serious. There's no word in his injury yet, but he might be out for a significant amount of time, and that's opening the door for a couple other guys. And to your point, Matt, I've talked to Coach Olson too. There's a plethora of different guys that are legitimately contending for that spot. There's a guy I want you to keep your name on, keep your eye on. John O'Brien. He's transferred from Bowling Green University in Ohio. He's a guy that, he's new to the program, and he might be more of a tackle, but they could shift him to guard. But you got Jalen Lee, you got Ethan Vibert. There's a bunch of guys that could fill that void now with Berenstein going down. But I will say this too, and I felt he was genuine with this. Coach Olson said whoever fills out this 5 guys, this total unit, I am confident it will be a good unit. He said we have depth this year more than we had last year. So that should be something that should bring some peace to Jack's Nation.
That's awesome, because that was definitely a strong point out of last year. Now, just out of curiosity, you brought up the Bowling Green guy. We talked, I guess, as a group, the Jackrabbit Illustrated team, that really felt like a wild card because you couldn't tell who we had coming in. You get somebody that's in a transitional point, obviously was, good enough, got the tools to play FBS football. I mean, have you watched any reps that he's played? Do you have any more insight there?
I've watched a couple. I'm going to practice again a couple times this week, and this is where I'm going to start really getting, because it's been so, I'm trying to get I've had to write stories on the offense and defense, and now I'm going to start focusing on position groups. I haven't watched a ton of them, but I can also tell you they haven't gone live a ton yet, and they're going to start ramping that up. But they do some one-on-ones with the defensive line, one-on-one offensive line versus defensive line. I'll be paying attention to that. So I can't give you a breakdown of what I've seen in him, but from what his teammates have said about him and the coaching staff, they mention him. Every time they mention the guys that haven't played yet, he's mentioned. So I think everyone's intrigued by what they've seen from him.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you brought up Ethan Vibert, or Vibert, just because there was so much excitement when he committed. I remember Coach Eck, the Canadian flag +1 hog or whatever it was when he committed. So it was a big deal. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out who it was because that's what we do. And and he and so far he just hasn't really found his spot yet. But talking to Coach Olson again, he was really excited about how he's growing, how he's gotten stronger, how he's learning the offense, starting to pick things up. And really, I think he'd be someone that he'd be comfortable with if he had to start or if he had to play a lot of snaps, which is just awesome because his highlight package is one of my favorite highlight packages of all time. Just pancaking people left and right. So that was a fun one.
I think someone we should touch on too is Gus Miller at center.
Yeah.
He did not start from the jump last year, but he did eventually get the starting nod. I believe it was right guard.
Yep.
He's shifting over to center this year. He's a little bit undersized, but man, he plays with some tenacity. And I think he's a guy who right now doesn't have to be a leader because you've got, Garrett and Mason right there next to him. But he's a guy who's kind of that next leader of the Hogs. And he's sliding over to center. And everyone seems very comfortable with him there at the forefront of the line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, super smart kid, wrestling background, really uses leverage well, good feet. So, I mean, for being undersized, those are the things that you have to have on the other side of it to balance it out. So
I love wrestlers at center. That translates so well in the middle of the line.
Yeah. All right. We got a question from Chad Bowles. Chad, we're all trying to figure out this Michael Reed thing as well. Because he doesn't look like an incoming freshman. That's for sure.
No, that's a grown man.
No, he definitely is. And it looks like we talked to him back in 21, looking through his Twitter. So
yeah.
Who is this Michael Reed kid?
He announced he was playing for the Jacks this year.
Today.
Yesterday.
He was a senior in Sparta, Wisconsin in 2020. Looked like a monster. I went back through his huddle from then, and it doesn't appear like he's played anywhere the last couple of years, so I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, he's been in the team pictures and stuff. I just thought it was like a GA or something, to be honest, just because he looks older. So, yeah, we'll see. Keep an eye out, Tanner. Get that story.
I'll be at practice tomorrow, so I'll ask him about it. I wanted to touch two on the line. I went to practice when I was there 2 weeks ago. There's a couple NFL scouts. I was talking to them. First two guys they mentioned to me, Garrett Greenfield, Mason McCormick. And you watch those guys. I've spent some time with the offensive line, not a ton in practice, but they are coaching. After every rep they do themselves, they turn around, and those guys are coaching. They care about that group, and they're incredible leaders. And I think that, to me, says more than anything that they can do in the field. And that's just the kind of that's why this program is where it is, because your best players are your hardest workers, and they're pushing the guys that are behind them. And that is, to me, why this program has gone from, it hasn't even been 2 decades since they've been in Division I. Now you guys are preseason number 2. That's the kind of respect that this program is getting now. And that example right there in a nutshell, your 2 best players who are getting looked at by the NFL are coaching up the guys behind them. And also, too, Mrs. McCormick, I don't know if you're going to like this. And I told Garrett this, that I talked to the scouts, and they told me that they actually thought Garrett was a little bit more physical than Mason. And I know Mason won't like that either. So I'll make sure to tell them that, too. But they were very impressed with both of them. But that's
Tanner's throwing the gauntlet.
That's what the one guy told me, yeah.
So I'm glad you brought up Garrett. I'm interested to see how he does moving to the left side. I know he was able to take some reps there last year when Aaron Johnson was out with his ankle or whatever was going on with Aaron. But I know it's a big shift. If you're used to kicking out with your right leg and then you have to flip over, start kicking out with your left leg, that's just a different feel. The Valley probably as a whole this year is maybe a little bit down on edge rushers than some seasons. But still, there's going to be some good players. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. I thought he was fine in the games that he played left tackle last year. But still, it's just another transition, something to keep an eye on. So
you guys know Garrett is put on 17 pounds.
Yep. Matt Jacobs again.
He's up to 315, and then also to the point of weight gain or loss, Mason McCormick lost 15 pounds. So those two guys are taking their profession they're already acting like pros. They are already acting like pros. So if anyone had any idea of where the true leadership is going to come from on this team, look no further than those two guys.
Yep. And they went to that offensive line weekend or whatever too, right? Down in Kansas City or wherever it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to quickly chime in with some old guy perspective here, looking back 20 years ago, outside of there was Josh Ronick, who Stig has called the best football player he's ever coached, and Josh was separate. I'm not talking about Josh. He was amazing. But every year we had a handful of guys that we had scouts in camp. We had guys that had rookie contracts and went to rookie camps. A lot of times those best guys, they didn't, to your point, Tanner, invest in the younger players. I can think of 5 or 6 guys that had NFL careers or at least had sniffs that didn't spend that kind of time. They didn't display that kind of leadership. So don't take that for granted. That's a very special thing. That's exciting to hear you say that.
That's cool to hear too. I talked to my boss, Sean Barry, is my sports director, and I asked him, I said, where do you think SDSU has made the jump, you could pinpoint it in the past 5 to 10 years? And he told me that to get on NDSU's level, they put more focus on the offensive line. And you look at the line, I mean, we'll once they officially announce the starting lineup, we can average out the numbers. They'll probably average around 6'4", 6'5", 305 pounds across the board. Mm-hmm. That is a legit offensive. That's why they can match up with Iowa. That's why. So this group as a whole is the anchor of this team. And of course, there's question marks on that right side, but you have to feel good with what they've shown year in and year out, what they can do. You got to feel good with what you'll see come Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember up at the U of M game, when our offensive line trotted out on the field, you would have thought they were the bigger of the two offensive lines. And they really performed
outside
well.
of the 6'10", 400.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That's an anomaly, though.
Besides Falalale or whatever his name was. So, yeah. All right. So I want to talk about coaching staff, and I do want to, Tanner, bring it back to this bevy of weapons that I think, reflecting back again on the first year that I did Jackrabbit Illustrated, it was Jake Wenicky and Dallas Goddard, and that's when Dallas was picking up steam, and Taryn, and just this incredible offense again. Maybe not the same type of offensive line in terms of size and stuff, but I'm just really interested in how they keep everyone happy. That's my biggest fear this year, is keeping people happy. Because that year when things started to go downhill, and specifically remembering the UNI Hobo Day game, then in the rain, one of the worst experiences ever.
Why do you do that to us?
Just hearing the rumblings that things were not great. People were not happy with their stat line compared to previous years. I don't get that sense with this team. It feels like this team is about championship, right? That's the goal.
I think what the common denominator in that what you just said is Mark Gronowski, because everyone on that team knows that Mark is a winner, right? He's a winner. So he is not going there will be no favorites chosen. There will be nothing of anything but doing what's best for the team. So if you're not on board with your quarterback, you got no chance. And everyone is. He is one of the most, if not the most respected guys in that locker room. So you've got to start there, and that's where you feel good. From that point on, it's not like these guys, we're not going into this season where people are going, the Yankees got talent. Let's see what they're at. Hey, we know these tight ends, they're decent too. Everyone's already established. Everyone knows how good these kids are, including themselves. So they're not trying to prove anything to that point of I need to get noticed. Everyone knows these names. The NFL scouts come, they're all on the list. And I think they have to understand that they can't get lost up in the stats and the numbers. They're all already on these watch lists individually, and they're going to get their chance. They'll get their chance in games, but they'll get their chance after the season too to show what they can do. But they're already established players. And when you look at this, the culture that is at South Dakota State, that's one of my favorite things about coming to practice. I don't care what profession you're in. You want to be around people who are, first off, kind, treat people the right way, and then care about what they're doing. And then you watch them. And there's not a practice I don't go to that I don't feel like I've taken something away myself. And it's just so nice to be in that kind of environment where it just feels like everyone is on one page, and it doesn't ever seem like someone is trying to do anything on their own. I mean, the coaching staff. This is one thing I've noticed too. I've really found this impressive. I'll watch different position groups. The coaching staff will coach the walk-ons and the kids who are probably not going to play this year just as hard as the Isaiah Davises and the Yonke twins. I have noticed that. And that to me is healthy. So, of course, is there going to be some games where maybe privately a guy wishes he got the ball more? Sure, that's human nature. But I truly do not believe that's going to be a problem because these guys understand collectively we've got a special team, and this is part of being on this team.
Awesome. I love how you put that. Yeah.
Tanner, like I could run through a wall right now after you said that.
Yeah, let's go.
Good.
All right. Before we wrap, we got to do this. Oh, what happened there? Oofta. Okay. So we just talked about all of these weapons. We have to pick an MVP, and I'm going to give you some time to think about it, and I'm going to talk about Shenanigans. So we want to thank Shenanigans for being back for another year of sponsorship here. On the west side of Sioux Falls, one of the best places. It's no longer in the mall. I saw someone tweeted that at them, or they tweeted back. It was a pretty funny exchange a little while ago. But
They're
a huge
fun follow on Twitter, by the way.
Yeah,
they're great
funny
follow.
stuff. Yeah. Great place, great food, great drink, great atmosphere. They host Jackrabbit watch parties down there. So if you're looking for, to get out and really have a good time with fellow Jackrabbits cheering on your team, not just sitting at home, head to Shenanigans. They always have good deals, and they are super supportive of the community, of us, South Dakota State. So be sure to get there. All right. Let's hear these MVPs, offensive MVP predictions.
Guys, go ahead.
You gotta call him something.
Who's going
This
first?
is you.
Who's going first?
No, this is
Let the guests go first.
All right, I'll go first. There's a lot of weapons. We know this. We've run through them. It's a no-brainer to me. Isaiah Davis. This kid is special, and I think he's going to show through. I'm going with Mr. Davis.
Well, I know Matt and I were kind of mulling this over a little bit before you hopped on, Tanner, and then later Dallas. And my first just trigger reaction was Mark, but I thought about it a little bit and I talked it over with Matt, and that's exactly what I came to too. I think Isaiah Davis is going to be the engine that runs this offense. We have so many other weapons, but we all know Stig likes to run the ball, and when you can grind guys out and the way that guy runs just so punishingly, like you said, I think he's underrated even as much of accolades as he's gotten. So I also will go with Isaiah Davis.
So on one hand, really for this season to go the way we think it should, I feel like it's got to be Mark. But you know what? I'm just gonna come out of left field. I'm gonna go with Wolfe. Just to pick a dark horse in this, honestly, because I'm rooting for the guy. I want to see him have a great season. I want to see him, break through with over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns or just some obnoxious stat line. So what the heck, Landon Wolfe.
All right. Well, Isaiah, Mark, Like, I think those are likely your choices there, but I'm going to go with Tucker. I think we're going to see something special this year. He has such a unique ability. There's a reason he's a potential top 50 draft pick, top tight end off the board potentially. He's just an athletic freak. When I went and did my Valley team this year, I did have a hard time outside of Benny Sapp and Michael Tutsi, the safety from NDSU, identifying like some really good safeties. I don't think there's a linebacker in the conference that can cover him one-on-one. I just think we're going to have a really special season from a special player on a loaded offense. So, yeah, that's our predictions.
Not a bad choice.
Yeah.
So we had somebody bring up Ryan Drake asked about coaches. I think we could save it for a different show, but I very much, to me, again, the coaching staff is the most interesting thing this season that I can't wait to talk about a bit more. And I've joked that I can't wait to overanalyze everything that they do because it's super fun. But when Stig came out and said in spring ball that the game situations and the things they were doing were just as much for the coaching staff as the players, that was crazy for me to hear. Because I'm trying to imagine, like, as a 19, 20-year-old, that never crossed my mind that those coaches needed those reps too. But that's exactly what was happening. And that is a cool dynamic to think about. And actually, I mean, I hope we're going to see some great things out of it too.
There's a lot of, I'm sure you guys will do a show on the coaches. I think the one you'll have to touch on the most interesting storyline is Lujan taking over as offensive coordinator. I mean, I've talked to him, he's got a little gunslinger mentality. How he eases Mark into this offense after a year off is going to be fascinating. And those two guys have a really good relationship. Yeah, so that will be fun to watch as that progresses.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, next week we'll be back to look at the defense. Hopefully 8:00 Sunday night again. Hopefully my kids cooperate again and go to bed. We'll see. But thank you, Tanner. Where can everyone find your work so they can see what you're doing?
On most of my stuff will be posted on Twitter, Tanner_Castora. I work for Keloland. I've been a sports reporter and an anchor now for a year and a half. I've enjoyed covering the team. I'll be at practice again this week, and I'll be the guy from Kelo who's primarily covering the Jacks. So I'll be doing feature stories. I'll be writing kind of my own opinion stuff, things I see from practice. I'm going to I have a cool segment idea I've got coming up to how to get to know the guys more in the team. So you can follow my stuff at Tanner_Castora on Twitter.
Awesome. Terrific. Dallas and Chad, any last words from you?
Nope, nothing for me. Absolutely cannot wait for this season to get going. God, I'm anxious.
All right, good. Follow Chad on Twitter. He'll have some wrestling updates this week as one of our incoming freshmen is wrestling at the Pan Am Games, right, Chad?
That dude's a baller.
You're muted, Chad.
You got it, buddy. I am in mid-season form. I don't know where the mute button is, but at least I haven't taken anybody off screen. The only thing I think I have to add is in Dallas's mid-drink. How about a go big, go blue,
go Jacks.